This is the ending to the story of Lazarus, and there's a lot that can be taken from this story. It's a rather lengthy story, so I've kind of shortened it down to sort of the section I kind of want to talk about today. And this is a passage that has, one of the more famous verses in the Bible. Jesus wept, one of the shortest verses, and it's just an interesting passage as a whole, not just because of the miracle that is performed, but because of the question that kind of it sort of raises. Some of the questions that it sort of raises that many people, much smarter than me, have really kind of sat and reflected on it. And namely, it's this: it's why does Jesus seem to have this heart for healing people and bringing them out of their physical needs. This is a major part of his ministry. Is healing individuals, and in this case, this goes beyond healing. This is a miraculous, bringing somebody back from the dead, and very significantly, the fact that it was 4 days after he died. It lined up with this belief that the Jews had at the time that the spirit kind of hung around the body for about 3 days. So, if Jesus had risen, if Lazarus had risen from the grave, within that time frame, they would have just thought, oh well, his spirit was still around, so that wasn't really that big of a deal. It was kind of how they explained when people would seemingly die, but then all of a sudden wake back up and be, okay and alive. So the fact that Jesus performs this miracle then meant that to everybody there, Lazarus was truly dead. But the reality is that Lazarus dies again. He's not cured of death in this situation. The people Jesus healed became sick again. So what was it that motivated Jesus with this knowledge that he had to have known and recognized to perform these miracles? And I think in many ways, these kind of stories are where we really see the humanity of Christ in action and how it impacts his ministry, how it has its own influence within how he goes about his ministry. He feels compassion for people. He feels the hurt that they're going through, and he wants to help them. He wants to alleviate them in whatever way he can. And that means, oftentimes curing their diseases, even though he knows that they're going to get sick again. And in the case of Lazarus here, raising him from the dead, even though he knows in the future he's going to die again. And this is something that I think we, kind of almost gloss over. We often look at the gospel as purely being about Jesus getting to the cross and dying, and then rising again, and that is very important. I think there's a school of theology that is kind of good, that goes in the direction that I'm kind of going with my sermon today. That talks very heavily about the need to go and make an impact in the community around you, and I think that is an important message. But I do believe that they go a little too far, and they kind of put the sort of this healing of the spiritual divide between us and God, so far in the back burner that they almost even just kind of ignore that it exists. And I do think that that is the central part of the gospel, and what is truly the good news, and that all of this else flows out of it. But it is, I think we do also, though, we miss this. We don't really pay attention to this, and we don't really pay attention to the heart that Jesus has behind this, and that's that we should have compassion for those around us, for those who are suffering, for those who are, who are sick, who are hungry, who are in need. And that's part of having been transformed from Christ, is that we should be feeling that compassion because Christ himself felt it. Now, maybe we will not go out and perform the miracles that Jesus performed, but in going and ministering to these groups of people and being involved in that way, we are still carrying on that ministry, and God will use us to make a big impact there. I would like to encourage all of you out there, as the church, for us to, because of Jesus, because of all that Jesus has done for us, because of what Jesus has done on the cross, let ourselves be moved with compassion to help those around us in need, to be involved in people's lives who need us to be involved in there, and to do what we can to alleviate their suffering, in this life as well, as helping them to prepare themselves and to be positioned for the next. Amen. And now I'd like to invite you all to join me for our last worship song today.